All right, hey everybody, welcome back to CrushLifeAcres.com. Boy, here I am sitting in this cage. I can't believe it's done. It was a real grinder. I'm gonna get into some of that here. But yeah, here we are. This is the blog post and the video for the DIY do-it-yourself batting cage here at Crush Life Acres. Let's get into it. Okay, now when we first moved out here and I realized I had a little bit of extra space, the first thing I wanted to do was try to get some mini facilities set up for my kids. And when I say mini facilities, I'm just saying small places where they can hit baseballs, shoot hoops, nice flat area to throw a football, things like that. So the way that I saw it, this project really had 5 steps. First was vision, second was groundwork, third was structure, fourth was turf, and fifth was the net. So let's first start and talk about vision. When I say vision, I'm talking about when you're laying in bed at night and you want to take on a project like this and you're thinking to yourself, how am I going to do this? So the first thing I had to do when I started to put together my vision was decide on a location out here at Crush Life Acres to put this cage. I had a day where I was jogging around my quarter-mile trail, and we have this little area that we call the meadow that's in between our Douglas firs and our ponderosa pines at the bottom of the hill, and it all of a sudden hit me with the light bulb on a beautiful day. That's the place where the cage should go, because my vision was that this cage would really be in the middle of the trees, and that when people came down here to hit, they would walk down the trail and all of a sudden come up on this beautiful batting cage in the middle of the trees. So right away I mowed it, I staked it out so I could see what a 55-foot long, 14-foot wide cage would look like at that area. It fit really well. And then I just kind of wanted to watch the ground and see how it behaved. So through the winter, it looked pretty good. And then really when the spring rains came in May, June this year, it was like, holy cow, that is not gonna work. It was just, it was soupy down there. It was not a good spot. It's not a good spot for growing trees, and it's not a good spot for a permanent batting cage installation. So then I had to readjust my vision, and I chose the spot where we're at. This used to be a road. There's a gate right behind the camera, but this is where they brought in a lot of the original material when they built the house. So it had a good hard road bed to it. It's close to the shop, so I had access to electricity when I need music and lighting and things like that. It drains well. All the water that comes down towards this part of the farm tends to soak into the ground above where the cage sits today, and the area was also relatively flat. The other thing I liked about the area is that it's already fenced in. So when I have people coming out here to visit or train, you can kind of tell this is the area where you're going to be, and the house is up there away from it. But at the same time, it's not so far away from the house that I can't see it and keep an eye on it if the kids are down here by themselves, for instance. So a little reevaluation of where I wanted to put the cage, but I'm really happy with the area that I chose. So when it comes to building a batting cage, there's really 3 options. First of all, you can buy the full kit online. They'll ship it to your house and you build it. When I say full kit, I mean the metal poles, the connectors for the poles, and the net itself. The problem with these full kits that I've seen online is they don't get great reviews. They often have posts along the side, which I didn't want. They didn't come in the width and the height that I was looking for. And the biggest problem is that it just didn't appear to have the quality that I was looking for. And the second option you have is kind of a partial kit. And a partial cage kit comes with the pole connectors and the net, but doesn't come with the poles. Problem with that was I'd have to go down and buy a bunch of steel poles and transport them up here to the farm and build somebody else's kit. And then also I'd have the same kind of problem. I'd have a bunch of poles along the sides of the cage, and I just wouldn't have the appearance that I was looking for. And then the third option, which I chose, of course, is to design and build a do-it-yourself cage and then just purchase the net. Why did they go with that option? Well, for this cage, I really had 5 goals. First of all, I wanted it to look like it belonged. So here we are in a tree farm, kind of out in the country. I wanted the structure to be built out of wood. Second of all, I wanted the cage to be legit in its length and its width and its height. This thing is 55 feet long, it is 14 feet wide, plenty of room to swing without hitting the net, and it's 12 feet tall, so we got a nice tall, long, wide cage, you know, a nice legit kind of big league style cage. My third goal was that I did not want to have any posts along the side. Not only did that add extra cost and extra labor to get them into the ground, but those posts along the side are magnets for line drives, and then you got balls ricocheting all over the place, and it just doesn't make for a great hitting experience. My fourth goal, I wanted to be able to pull the net back and remove the net or replace it very easily. And this cable system that I have set up allows me to do that. You know, if I know a snowstorm is coming, or if we get a couple of months of really bad weather, or if I just want to get the cage out of the way to clean it or to do some drills, at least I have that option. That was something I wanted to do. And then my fifth goal, I just wanted this cage to look professional. I wanted it so that when people visit to train or to hit, they don't go, man, this guy built a real hunk of junk out on his farm. We got a little bit of a hoarding tendency here. I want them to say, man, this guy really put in a good amount of work, good amount of planning. He's got a really professional looking cage in a place where I would like my kid to hit. So those were the 5 goals, and when I had those 5 goals in mind, I kind of had my vision completed. Really all I needed to find was one picture that would really put the whole thing together in my head. So I was searching the internet and I was looking at a lot of different DIY builds that people had done, and I didn't find any DIY builds at people's farms or properties that really fit the picture that I had in my head. And then randomly I came upon this picture that was a metal structure, but it had 4 main posts, so it had no posts along the side. It had knee brace posts to hold up the 4 main posts, and then it had 3 cables running the length. And when I saw this picture, the light bulb went on in my head and I said, I need to replicate that design. I just need to do it with wood. So then I went into the planning phase. All right, so let's start with the second part of the project, which is the groundwork. So as I said, this area was already relatively flat, but again, for a cage like this, you want to get this thing really level if you can. And me being a guy who just needs to feel like I'm progressing and chipping away on things, the first thing I did is I borrowed my neighbor Jim's tiller, and I just started tilling up this area because I just wanted to be able to see how the ground would move. I wanted to see what the area would look like, how big it was, all those things. So I spent a day and a half or so, you know, an hour here and an hour there, kind of tilling everything up. And then when I started running the idea by my fellow T-ball coaches, one of my fellow T-ball coaches, Ross, said, hey man, I got a skid steer, I'll come over there and help you out. So he shows up here on a Saturday afternoon and he brings his skid steer, massive John Deere beast, and he gets this thing leveled out in a matter of hours. And I had 6 yards of gravel delivered and 4 yards of sand, and he also got that gravel down and got that sand down. So with the right equipment, 3 or 4 hours later, we had this area flattened and we had the gravel and the sand down, and I was feeling really good about where we were at. So then the second step was to get the structure up. So this would technically be step number 3. Vision, groundwork, and now the structure. So I had 2 buddies come over early on a Saturday. My buddy Johnny, who lives right over Green Hill, has a tractor, and he borrowed an auger from a friend to connect to his power takeoff on his tractor. And we drilled the 4 holes, 36 inches deep, put a little bit of pea gravel on the bottom, tamped it down, put the posts in, 4 bags of concrete per hole, and then got them leveled up using scrap wood and stakes in the ground to level it one way, level it the other way. And then I just kind of chipped away and got the header installed. And then we were in good shape, and I was thinking, hey man, I've got the ground done, I've got the structure done, the tough part is over. Now we got to move on to the turf, which is the 4th part of the project. I'll try to keep this turf section short, but the thing that I need you to understand is that if you buy used field turf, you just need to understand that this stuff is no stinking joke. When we went to go get the first roll, my neighbor James brought down his Dodge Ram, great looking truck, a lot of power, good healthy engine, and he brought his trailer that he has used to haul a side-by-side, like to go over and do the Oregon Dunes, and we're thinking this is going to be no problem. Man, we went to pick up this roll, and when they dropped it into the trailer, the axle just, whoop, I mean, you could see the trailer was overweight, that's for sure. So we got on the road, we got it over here, and then the hard part was getting it out. So we hooked cables onto that roll, and then we ran those cables around the structure of the cage, and we tried to pull and pull and pull, got stuck on its tailgate. We were in a bad way because you couldn't go in reverse because the tailgate was down and the turf was on top of it. And finally, one last pull before he got out to the road, and we got that turf to come out. Once it hit the ground, then the trailer was able to go forward and the turf came out. And then we spent the whole rest of the day. We rolled it downhill over here towards my oak tree, cut it into 20-foot sections, and it took 2 adult men every single ounce of energy we had in our bodies to shake the infill out of the inside of the stuff, the sand and the rubber, to get it out to make it light enough to move and pull it into place. At the end of the day, we had put in almost 10 hours of work, and we had 2 sections of turf, the 2 sections that you see behind me, done. And also the bummer of it was the roll came up about 20 feet short. So I called Artificial Grass Recyclers. They offered to make it right on a second roll. So then my buddy Kyle from work gets his Tundra, and he's got access to this massive trailer that's an automatic dump. We go pick up roll number 2. They hammer it in the trailer. We drive it over here. He hits the button. The trailer goes up. The turf falls out. Stress relieved. Then about 2 weeks later, you know, you got to kind of work with people's schedules. I bothered my neighbor Jim enough. He comes up here with his tractor and he gets it rolled out. Then it sits for a week or so, and then I waited for my buddy Johnny to come through again for the 3rd time on this project. Johnny comes over with his John Deere. We sandwich the turf between 2 2x2s and use a steel cable to pull it. We got all the turf out of the way. Johnny suggested it, and he was right. Let's backblade this whole surface one last time before we get the turf down. So we rolled all the turf up, got it out of the way, backbladed the whole surface with the scoop on the trailer to get it nice and level, put all the turf back down, and the project at that point was pretty much done, and it was a huge relief. So then all I had to do after that was get the net up, and that just took my wife and I probably 30 minutes on a Saturday morning, and we just got the carabiners on the rope on the north side, and then we got the... I'm doing really good, man. I'm filming my video for the cage.
Awesome.
For the blog.
I gotta get my kid up there.
Hey, anytime, man. I've had a few kids. It's been going well. You can do the online reservations.
Our time right now is a little bit crazy, but I want to keep them swinging that bat.
Anytime.
All right.
CrushLifeAcres.com.
Yeah, no, we got her.
And it's Bob, right?
Bill.
Bill, good to see you, man.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, enjoy the sunset. Old Bill, good guy. Got to get his son up here hitting. Anyhow, we got the carabiners on the rope on the north side of the net. Then we got the carabiners on the rope connected to the cables in the middle. And then the moment of truth, we stretched it to the south side of the cable, and boom, that net was just set up perfect with my cables. And then I drilled holes and pulled those main ropes through the posts on the corners so I could pull that net tight. And then I connected those to a cleat in the middle and then just hooks on the sides. And then we had the net tight. And then after we had the net up, I did a little bit of work on the turf to try to smooth out the seams, put in my 8-inch galvanized spikes. I've probably used 60 of them. I probably need to buy another 20 to get the last seam done. Just hammering those along the side and then kind of using a broom and some of that rubber and sand to smooth out the seams. And then I'll never forget, just a few days after that, we were out here in the evening and our kids were playing soccer in here, and the wife looks at me and she goes, you know, this cage really turned out good. And that meant the world, because I can tell you, when this project was ongoing, it looked terrible down here. We had lumber laying around, we had nets, we had the net, we had piles of clay. Once everything was done and Johnny kind of backbladed this whole property and it kind of looked finished, it really did look good. It came out even better than I expected. So, you know, it was a ton of manual labor, a few injuries. It literally was blood, sweat, and almost tears a few times, but to put in all that work and then be able to enjoy it and see how much my kids enjoy it and their friends have enjoyed it and kids I've had up here training have enjoyed it, it's made it all worth it. And that's what life is all about for me, is, you know, putting in that time, putting in that work, planning a project, executing a project, learning along the way, and then sharing what you've created with other people. That's the definition of joy in my life. So yeah, CrushLifeAcres.com. I can't really get into the whole materials list. You can go read the blog post at CrushLifeAcres.com. There's a few more details in there. There's a lot more pictures in there that kind of show all the various parts of it. If you have any questions, you can email me, steve@CrushLifeAcres.com. Follow me on Instagram at CrushLifeAcres, Facebook CrushLifeAcres, YouTube CrushLifeAcres. And let's rise, shine, crush. I think this design should be replicated. I still think it could be improved upon. Since I got it installed, I've added some bat holders. I come out here every so often and kind of blow it off or sweep it off just to keep it looking good. I did a do-it-yourself batting tee. So just kind of chipping away and continuing to make it better. That's the whole story. I hope you read the blog post for more detailed information. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you on CrushLifeAcres.com. It's always a pleasure. And keep crushing. Thanks.